Sabaya hugged Onibakusha, but he never expected that when the two of them wanted to contribute to the reproduction of mankind, they found a 2-meter-tall man standing behind them, staring at Sabaya's eyes. Spike took the lead in taking action like a sword, and then attacked first. Suddenly, a big hand held him. York was about to do it to you. Spike was furious after being attacked suddenly. It was always him who attacked him. Others immediately let Huashan taste the taste of his 59 horse legs, but he didn't know that he had kicked an iron plate today. The silk of his suit shattered to reveal his sword-like muscles, and the tattooed knight behind him had an extraordinary origin, because only the leader of the Huashan family could tattoo him. 500 people were defeated from the enemy gang, with just a pair of fists. Spike is worthy of being a representative of old toughness. He took advantage of Huashan's self-introduction to feed him cruelly. However, what is more fatal is that he actually touched Huashan's Chelsea. Chekvaranovsky said earlier. He beat up Huashan black and blue, and then threw a bench at Huashan. The steel plate was successfully destroyed. Huashan, who used to be a troublemaker, has returned, but his fierce expression is enough to make Sibek excited. After all, he escaped from prison just to find a worthy opponent to fight, throwing away the cheat in his hand. Tool wants a real man's duel with Huashan. After all, his boxing is not good. It turns out that he used the Statue of Liberty to practice boxing for years by hitting it repeatedly. The Statue of Liberty, weighing more than 200 tons, was smashed into pieces by him. In the end, the United States used troops and helicopters to surround the aircraft carrier with thousands of blocking ropes to tie up the Statue of Liberty. How powerful Spike's fist is, and how powerful the two are. Its energy is like a black hole in the universe, causing the surrounding space and time to be distorted. Sibek took the lead and attacked Huashan with a burst of punches, a series of rapid punches. Huashan has no chance to fight back. As we all know, people's oxygen consumption increases rapidly during heavy training, but in boxing, every breath is the opponent's best chance to attack, punching continuously. So now he can hit Huashan continuously without taking a breath. It can't be compared to the other party's punch that caused more damage. Did you know that when the director first escaped from prison, he sent a self-defense team, the strongest ninja, but failed to take him down? An ordinary director and a civilian can be very scary. Power. At this time, Sibek's brain was filled with fear. In his eyes, Huashan was just a godlike existence, but this god liked to beat people. A heavy blow knocked Spike down for a moment, but the anger in Huashan's heart still hadn't disappeared, and Spike hit him with his strength. But what Huashan didn't expect was that Spike put a bullet into his mouth, and his mouth exploded with fire. Huashan just wanted to fight well, but he was played dirty by his opponent again. Looking at the steaming Huashan, the Spike was already dripping sweat all over the floor. However, the reality was not as he thought. Not only did Liao Huashan not fall, but he became stronger. Unsurprisingly, he was eventually accepted into the diplomatic field and sent to the police station by Huashan. I have never seen such a cruel teacher. Just because Yujiro turned around in class, he took his sword and ran away and said, "No matter how good you are at fighting, can you beat your father Yujiro? Can you beat him? Motorcycle. No matter how strong you are, can you take a car and run? Now you have to be more civilized." But the slap in the face always came too late. At this time, a man outside the window suddenly flew into the classroom because he really couldn't stand listening to the teacher. But Dole punched him down. After all, he was not as easy to talk to as Banya on the ground. When Banya saw Dalton, whom he hadn't seen for a long time, he immediately cried with joy. Dole never expected that Bladia would also learn how to spray smoke. For a while, the classroom was smashed into pieces because of the two people's behavior. Dole was even more angry when he saw his red nose. Dinar, I won't be polite anymore. When Bladia saw the extremely sharp arc knife, he immediately lost his confidence. He couldn't guarantee whether doing it here would hurt the students around him, so he did it to stay away from the 6th floor. Dole suddenly showed a strange smile when he saw the collision, because he knew that Banya was destined not to leave school today. Sure enough, when Banya was about to leave, a sickle suddenly flew behind him. Someone was going to throw the sickle today. That person was none other than Liu Longguang, who was ranked first in the top 5 dead ball battles. He disguised himself as a gardener and sneaked into the campus just to fight with Blade Ya. The unarmed Blade. Ya was already scared to the point of sweating. Liu Longguang took the lead and attacked with a stone. Taking advantage of Blade Ya's unpreparedness, he threw the sickle, easily dodging it with a bounce. However, Liu Longguang immediately hit him again. There were 5 dead balls coming from the sickle. Then he gave it and threw the sickle at the Blade Ya. After losing his sickle, Liu Longguang seemed to be able to swing it more smoothly. The thick smoke he released was 2.5 meters high to cut the sickle that was given earlier. The old man was playing around just to see how the Blade Ya could fight with him 300 times. After the Blade Ya took off his clothes, his saber had been fooled by his trick. Longguang could not see clearly because of his presbyopia. When Liu Longguang saw his weakness exposed, he also gave up using weapons. After all, presbyopia would not affect his close body. At this time, Blade Ya was suddenly shocked, and then a big kettle came. He couldn't help but realize that the water was cold. As expected, the older he gets, the more evil he becomes. Today, Liu Longguang has met his match. What made him unexpected was that this old man was not only very good at kung fu with his hands and feet, he was also a martial arts master. With just one move, Liu Longguang trembled and was shot. Without knowing he would do it. When the disaster was approaching, he was still angrily mocking Liu Longguang, who was just bullying a brat. He was hit by Liu Longguang with a carp attack, flying and silently. After all, ranking first among the 5 death row inmates was not a reputation that was well deserved. If you can't play with Ming, then I'll play with Dark. I was shot for a while and was caught by him. Blood spilled all over the floor. It turned out that Liu Longguang deliberately used violence to hit Huza. This weapon may look small, but it is much more effective in close combat. After passing the machete, Blade Ya also saw the danger for the first time and decided to face Liu Longguang. With the old man ready to fight, he shot his blood and quickly swung the blood on his body. He shouted, and sure enough, the old man was still hot. Sure enough, Liu Longguang, who did not escape, had to face the two. When Liu Longguang stood up again, the two had formed a flank attack towards him, still not realizing the seriousness of the matter. I thought I could get out of the area around here, but I was forced back by Saber Ya. As he landed, he was shot again and caught from behind. This was undoubtedly a great offensive opportunity for Blade Ya, but he failed to grasp it and was kicked hard by Liu Longguang, who had the upper hand and was thrown away, performing a smooth and beautiful floor exercise. Seeing that the two of them were so disrespectful to martial arts, Liu Longguang decided not to hide his strength anymore. Just the warm-up before the match was enough to scare Blade Ya into silence. At this moment, Liu Longguang was like a god possessing him, emitting a powerful energy enough to distort the space around him. He asked Blade Ya a math question while walking, leaving one moment Blade Ya stunned. He slapped Blade Ya's head hard. What was strange was that in just 2.5 seconds, this high school student, who was known as the strongest on the surface, became greedy. Everyone in the world thinks that poisonous gas can kill people, but according to Liu Longguang, oxygen can also kill people. The proportion of oxygen in the air in life is generally 21%. If this ratio is lower than 15%, then its function is that the human body will quickly decline, causing dizziness and nausea. Nausea, until finally fainting on the ground, is also the cause of some people suffering from illness when going to Tibet. if the oxygen concentration decreases to below 6%. A person will immediately fall to the ground after taking a sip. This is the greatest weakness of the human body. In order to practice this trick, Liu Longguang practiced on the surrounding objects every day from half a year of training. Liu Longguang only needs to use his palm. The air will turn into a vacuum, and the ability to make a big hole in the wall is enough to prove. This asked him a math question when he entered Siberia earlier. The human brain will greatly increase oxygen consumption when thinking, so he fell to the ground with a gentle touch. Listening to the gunshots from the opposite side, he was already scared and sweating today. At this time, the police outside rushed over after hearing the news. After all, Liu Longguang did not want to fall into the hands of the police again. The fierce Blade Ya also slowly woke up and was embarrassed to find Liu Longguang to get rid of this bad breath. This is the most amazing move in the anime Basuga. Liu Longguang bent his finger 108 degrees in the opposite direction and teleported to Basuga and called him softly. A strange scene really happened. He fell to the ground, and even the 90-year-old Shoten couldn't solve the mystery. It turned out that Liu Longguang could directly drain the air around his palm. Through training day and night, lack of oxygen in his brain, so Benga fainted. At that time, he could only defeat people with this move. Tokugawa was furious when he learned of Blade's defeat. After all, he always claimed that the people in his club were the best masters. Whether it was a fair boxing match or an underground black boxing market, he wanted to be the best first. But now Blade was killed by a dead bull. After defeating him, Hana-shan couldn't hold it anymore. He grabbed Tokugawa and cursed him, but no matter what, it's still you all. Hana-shan got angry. With just one finger, Tokugawa could be killed instantly. Seeing that the situation was not right, Tokugawa immediately killed him while saying that he also thought that all these people were caused by him. Right now, he just wanted to find a place to work on the materials in peace. The moment he opened the door, a strong killing intent came at him. The person who came was Dorian, who ranked second among the 5 death row inmates in terms of combat power. The atmosphere in the night suddenly fell into ice on the field. Everyone had a hint of killing intent in their eyes because not long ago, Duobu fought Dorian, although he used the Guanyin move. His arm shot at Dorian, but in the next fight, he was unfortunately cut off by Dorian, who used a dirty move to cut off one of his palms by his arch-enemy. Now Dorian came and wanted to repeat the same trick, but when he lit the match, someone held him behind him. He was the good and lonely Dex. He had long wanted to take revenge for his father's broken arm. Finally, he was taken to the police station. He didn't know about the opportunity, but his punch had caused a great hidden danger because the gasoline on Dorian's hand had spread everywhere. The method was to let Dorian feel the burning feeling of fire. Dorian wanted to escape, and the fine gasoline on his body made him fall to the ground. Seeing the pretentious Crystolian, he was already so scared that his pants pockets were wet. However, Kez enjoyed this feeling very much. It was much more interesting to let someone live in fear than to let that feeling die, and what was more interesting than this was to make someone see hope in despair and make him black-eyed in hope. He was never cold-hearted when dealing with such old coins. It took him a while to turn around, and the flames soared into the sky. Everyone was stunned by Kez's operation. Seeing Dorian screaming desperately in the fire, none of them came to help because everyone felt that Dorian deserved his punishment. But what they didn't expect was that after the fire was extinguished, Dorian looked charred on the outside, but not on the inside. Dorian immediately jumped into the air. Yes, not only did he not die, he became stronger. Aim. At this time, a man with a murderous expression on his face slowly walked out. He was the master of Kez, Kato Ching. He had always been famous for his cruel methods. From Dorian's forced smile, it could be seen that Dorian had met his match today. Sure enough, he gave him a sneak attack as soon as he appeared, and before he could recover from the divine pulse, another critical attack hit him. Sure enough, magic could defeat magic, and magic was more dangerous to dangerous people. Dorian's counterattack was within Kato's expectations. Once Kato smiled, the old man's life or death was uncertain. In the blink of an eye, Dorian cut off one of his ears. Dorian's usual dirty tricks were finally used on him. Kato's cheating tool is the 10 silk cans that Dorian used to cut off Doppo's arm. As long as he uses it properly, he can easily cut off someone's head. Doppo suddenly gave a fierce blow, which is always done openly. This revenge of a broken arm is not an ordinary thing. Just when everyone thought the winner had been determined, suddenly a piece of silk entangled Kez and Kato for a moment. Their blood splattered on the ground, and the person who controlled it was Lao Yin. Forced Dorian. Just as Dorian was about to send them both to the road, he suddenly made a move. The extremely sharp rope was cut in an instant. Dorian was so scared that he froze in place. After all, his rope had not been cut for several years. It turned out that since Doppo's arm was cut off, he had been exhausted. He put all his strength into training his right hand. After being beaten and trained day and night, his arm had long since turned into a sharp knife. Of course, it was okay to have a small rope. But as a representative of the 5 dead balls, how could Dorian do it? This old man is really crazy. He actually hid a grenade in his stomach and waited until the battle. He suddenly vomited it out and shocked everyone. Just now, Dorian arrived at Saba and the others' party, and almost the top people in Tokyo gathered here. A warrior who was able to defeat the Siberian tiger martial god Dopbu Ma with his bare hands, the most talented hunter of the Han King in the martial arts world for 4,000 years. In such a scene, Yujiro had to make a gesture when he came. And Dorian was so crazy. After killing the guards outside, he went in with a barrel of gasoline to challenge these monster-like people. Just as Dorian was about to take action, someone suddenly appeared behind him, was in the air. The previous person was just Xiao Qiang. Chris's throat was slit by Dorian, and within a few days he was wearing bandages and jumping around. The opponent was so scared that he immediately retreated, but Kez did not want to give up so easily. He kicked his opponent to the ground with a fierce kick. This time, Kez immediately sat on his opponent's body. Because Kez was brutally beaten by Dorian before, he had learned everything and had changed. He no longer adhered to the empty-handed kata in karate, and Kez had understood the difference between competition and fighting. Suddenly, the house caught fire, and Dorian's entire body was engulfed in flames. The screams silenced everyone. Dubu was glad that his son had grown a little, but only a little. Kez understood the difference between competition and fighting, but he had lost his obsession with martial arts. In mid-air, Dorian's entire body had turned into a roast lamb. Everyone thought that his opponent had lost the ability to fight. However, the hunting magpie saw something was wrong at a glance and attacked his opponent with a fierce kick, but was unable to withstand it. Dorian's ability to withstand blows should be ranked second among the 5. At this time, Dorian was still full of energy and wanted to fight with everyone. Dorian was ready to take the lead to take revenge on the enemy, but was stopped by his son, Kez. Another person appeared behind him, Garten Qingcheng. He was also one of Dupo's disciples. He usually liked actual combat training rather than exercising alone. He was a fighting sect every time there was a fighting scene. Dorian didn't even react. Gaten kicked the opponent hard and hit the most vulnerable area with his movement. Dorian counterattacked, but the opponent could not dodge. In order to avenge Doppo, Gaten kicked the opponent's ear hard with his palm cut off neatly. It turned out that Garten's hands were wearing Tiantan silk, and this kind of silk thread was also Dorian's favourite trick at this time. Both Kez and Garten thought that the other party had lost the ability to fight back. But Dubu was different from these kids. He kicked Dorian hard. Everyone thought Dubu was attacking an opponent who was unable to fight back. They didn't know that Dorian's thread had entangled Kez and Gaten tightly, suddenly exerted his strength, and saw that the 2 boys were about to be crushed. Dobubu kicked hard on the fiber thread that could withstand a tension of 200 kilograms. Dobubu's palms became as sharp as knives after training. Knowing that there was no hope of winning, Dorian began to have difficulty breathing. Then he took out the protective bullet from his mouth. Facing this extremely destructive weapon, everyone was like a monster. His ability. Chuan followed the grenade explosion, and Dorian left here safely. Soon after, he arrived at a dark alley, and the man who was draining the water was frightened by Dorian's eyes and fled in a hurry. Dorian opened the manhole cover to make sure no one was following him. Then Dorian jumped in, but the sewer was actually bottomless, so he hurriedly used his hands and feet to brake. After passing through a pipe tens of meters long, Dorian arrived at his secret base. Then he used whiskey to disinfect his own ears. This time it was good luck to challenge so many people who had just lost their ears.
Mickey.